You know, when you go to a magic show, you completely expect to be tricked, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you sit there in your seat and the magician makes a coin disappear and you just clap.
Exactly. You don't get angry at all. You expect the illusion. But what happens when the magic show is just your normal life?
That is a scary thought, honestly.
Right. What happens when you are not in a theater, but you are buying a house or, choosing a career or even just talking to a friend and your brain is still playing tricks on you?
Yeah, and the really dangerous part is that you do not even know it is happening. You just think you are seeing reality.
I mean, we trust our own minds completely. We assume that if we think something, it must be true and logical.
Well, our mission for this deep dive today is to explore exactly that. We're going to look at how our brains trick us every single day.
Yes, we are. We are looking at the secret shortcuts our minds take, why they take them, and how those shortcuts can lead us to make some really bad decisions.
And to do this, we have a fantastic source. It is a hugely important book called Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yeah, written by Daniel Kahneman in 2011. And, we really cannot overstate how influential this work is.
Not at all. I mean, Daniel Kahneman was not just a popular author. He was actually a Nobel laureate.
Wait, didn't he win the Nobel Prize in economics?
He did, which is really fascinating because his actual field was psychology.
Hmm.
He changed economics by bringing psychology into it.
And this book has sold over 10 million copies worldwide. For a book about human thinking and behavioral economics, that is just wild.
It really shows how much people want to understand their own flaws.
Yeah.
It is considered a foundational text.
Yeah, it completely changed how the world understands human thinking. It basically proves that we are not the rational, logical creatures we believe we are.
Exactly. But before we get into the heavy science, I think we should keep things real.
I agree. We are talking about human mistakes today, so we should probably start with ourselves.
Oh, definitely. So what is this silly mistake you made this week? Let's just break the ice.
Okay, I will go first. So yesterday morning, I was making my breakfast, and I felt totally awake.
All right, just a normal morning.
Yeah, I poured my cereal into the bowl, I poured my milk, and then with total confidence, I put the cereal box inside the refrigerator.
Oh, no.
Yes. And I put the carton of milk in the dry food cupboard. I closed the doors and just walked away.
Wow. How long did it take you to notice?
It was not until an hour later I went back to the kitchen and realized what I had done.
That is so funny. But my mistake this week was very similar in how it felt.
Oh, really? What did you do?
Well, I was driving to a new restaurant to meet a friend. And I have lived in this city for years, so I know the main roads perfectly.
Okay, so you know where you're going.
Right. But my brain just went into its normal daily routine. I drove all the way to my office building instead of the restaurant.
You drove to work on a weekend.
Yes, I parked, I turned off the car, and then I suddenly realized, wait, it is Saturday. Why am I at work?
That is amazing. But I mean, what is actually happening there? Are our brains just glitching? Is it like a computer malfunction?
It feels like a malfunction, for sure. But evolutionary biologists and psychologists would say it is actually a feature.
A feature. How is putting milk in the cupboard a feature?
Well, it is a survival mechanism. These mistakes happen because our brains are desperate to save energy.
Oh, I see. Because thinking deeply requires physical energy.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Your brain did not want to burn calories thinking hard about where the milk goes, so it just followed a physical habit of putting things away.
It just swapped the items because it was not paying full attention.
Yeah, and my brain did not want to do the hard work of navigating to a new place.
Yeah.
It just took the familiar, highly practiced route to the office.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. And that brings us to the central theme of our source material today.
Right. These energy-saving shortcuts are happening all the time, not just with milk and driving, but with our biggest life choices.
But, for the listener who is with us today, who maybe hasn't read this specific book, is this an easy, fun read?
Like reading it by the pool on vacation.
Yeah. Or is it a heavy academic textbook?
I will be completely honest with you and our listener. It is a brilliant book, but it can be very heavy.
So it is pretty dense then.
Very dense.
Yeah.
It is filled with statistics, complex psychological experiments, and quite a lot of academic language.
Right. It is not something you just read quickly in an afternoon.
No, it demands real focus. You have to work through it.
Which is exactly why we are doing this deep dive today. We have gone through all that dense material so you don't have to.
Exactly. We have looked at the academic charts, and we are going to pull out the most important, surprising parts for you.
We will skip the confusing jargon and get right to the actual mechanisms of how your mind works.
So let's jump right into the core concept. The entire book is built around one specific idea.
Right. Kahneman says there are basically two characters inside your head.
Yes. And if we're supposed to be one unified person, it is weird to think about having two characters in there.
So who are these two characters? What does he call them?
He calls them System 1 and System 2. Let's start with System 1.
Okay, system one, what does that do?
This is your fast thinking. It is automatic, it is intuitive, and it is highly emotional.
Automatic, so I don't really have to try to use it.
Exactly. System 1 operates instantly, with almost no effort at all, and you have no sense of voluntary control over it.
I want to make sure I really understand what no voluntary control means. Are we talking about, like, basic animal instincts?
Partly, yeah. Like if someone asks you, what is 2 plus 2? You don't have to decide to think about it.
Right. The answer 4 just pops into my head.
Yes, the answer just appears. Or imagine you look at a photograph of someone who is screaming with a bright red face.
I would instantly know they are angry.
Exactly. You do not have to analyze their eyebrows, measure the shape of their mouth, and calculate their emotion.
Oh, I just feel it immediately.
Right. The conclusion is just delivered to you instantly by System 1.
But why did we evolve to have a system that makes decisions without asking our permission? That sounds slightly dangerous.
Actually, it is what kept our ancestors alive. Imagine you were an early human walking in the jungle,
Okay, I am in the jungle.
and you hear a sudden rustling sound in the tall grass. If you had to use slow, analytical logic to figure it out,
Like, what could that be? Is it the wind or is it a tiger? Let me calculate the
well, if
probability.
you did that, you would be eaten. System 1 hears the noise and instantly pumps your body with fear, forcing you to jump back.
So it categorizes the world rapidly to keep you safe. That makes total sense.
Yeah, it is incredibly useful.
So system 1 is kind of like the default operating system. The analogy that comes to my mind is a car's automatic transmission.
Oh, I like that. How so?
Well, system 1 is like driving in a low gear around your own neighborhood. It is easy. The car does it naturally.
Right, you can listen to the radio and talk to your passengers.
Exactly. It requires very little fuel, and you don't even really think about the act of driving.
That is a very helpful way to picture it. But, sometimes you encounter a massive steep hill.
And low gear isn't going to work for that.
No, the engine starts to struggle. And that is exactly when you need the other character in your head.
System 2. So how does system 2 work, and why does it feel so different from system 1?
System 2 is our slow thinking. It is the analytical, logical, calculating part of the brain.
So this is the part that actually takes effort.
Yes, it requires real, conscious effort. You feel it working. If I ask you to multiply 17 by 24 in your head.
Oh, wow. Yeah, my fast system 1 cannot do that automatically at all.
Exactly. You have to stop what you are doing, focus your attention, hold the numbers in your working memory, and follow a series of learned rules to solve the math.
That is system 2. It actually feels physically different.
It really does. Try walking in the park and talking with a friend. If they ask you to solve 17 times 24, what happens?
I would probably have to stop walking.
Yes. Your brain literally cannot control your legs, maintain balance, and do complex math at the exact same time.
That is crazy. So it really takes over your body.
It does. Your body
Yes.
physically changes. Your heart rate increases slightly, your blood pressure goes up, and your pupils actually get bigger when System 2 is working hard.
Wow. So it is a true biological effort.
It is. And because it takes so much physical energy, System 2 is fundamentally lazy. Kahneman emphasizes this deeply.
Lazy. Like it just doesn't want to work.
Exactly. Evolution designed us to conserve energy. So System 2 does not want to work unless it absolutely has to.
It strongly prefers to let system 1 run the show, right?
Yes. It loves staying asleep while System 1 does all the driving.
But wait, does this mean that the way we view ourselves is completely wrong?
What do you mean?
Well, if you ask people, who are you? Most people will describe system 2. We all believe we are logical, rational creatures.
Yes, we do. We think we live in System 2, carefully making choices based on facts and logic.
But that is not true.
No, that is the grand illusion Kahneman exposes in the book. We think we are scientists gathering data, but we are actually more like people reacting to a dream.
Oh, wow. So almost everything we do is initially driven by system 1?
Yes. Every choice we make, every opinion we form, it all starts with System 1. It is constantly offering suggestions to System 2.
Like impressions, feelings, and intentions.
Exactly. And because System 2 is so incredibly lazy, it usually just says, sure, sounds good, and accepts the suggestion without checking it.
It doesn't even bother to do the math.
Nope. It just agrees to save energy.
I think we need to test this right now. We are going to do a live test for you, our listener.
Oh, this is a great idea.
I want you to listen to this quick math problem from the book. Don't grab a pen and don't pause the audio. Just listen and see what answer immediately pops into your head. Ready?
Go ahead.
Here is the problem. A bat and a ball cost $1.10 in total. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost?
I will give the listener a second to let their brain answer.
Okay. If you are like almost everyone else in the world, your brain just shouted 10 cents.
Yes, it feels incredibly correct, doesn't it?
It really does. The numbers $1.10 and $1 just easily separate into $1.10.
But 10 cents is absolutely wrong.
Let's break this down. If I actually force my system 2 to wake up and pay attention, why is 10 cents wrong?
Let's do the slow step-by-step math. If the ball costs 10 cents and the bat costs $1 more than the ball.
Then the bat would cost $1.10.
Right. Now, if you add the bat at $1.10 and the ball at 10 cents together, what is the total?
The total is $1.20.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the problem clearly stated the total is $1.10.
So the real answer has to be 5 cents.
Yes, because if the ball is 5 cents and the bat is $1 more, the bat is $1.05.
And $1.05 plus 5 cents equals $1.10.
You got it.
You know, when I first read that in the sources, my brain honestly fought against it.
Really? You tried to resist it?
Yeah, I knew the book was trying to trick me, I tried to be clever, and I still thought 10 cents.
Well, the mechanism behind why we fail this is crucial. The 10-cent answer is just an automatic shortcut from System 1.
Because my brain saw an easy pattern and just took it.
Exactly. Your System 2 could easily figure out the 5-cent answer. I mean, you use a basic addition.
Right, I know how to add 5 and 5.
But your System 2 is biologically lazy.
Yeah.
Saw the 10-cent answer, thought, well, that feels correct, and went back to sleep to save energy without doing the actual math.
The sources point out that even experts make these System 1 errors. Like, students at elite universities fail the bat and ball problem all the time.
They do. Being highly educated doesn't stop System 1 from taking shortcuts.
But the most dangerous part isn't just making the error, is it?
No, it isn't. The real danger is that we make these errors with total, unshakable confidence.
We don't say, maybe it's 10 cents. We say, it's 10 cents, obviously. Next question.
Exactly. And why do you think System 1 is so overconfident?
I am not sure. Why is it?
Because System 1 does not understand doubt. Doubt requires System 2.
Oh, because doubt is a complex thought process.
Yes. To experience doubt, you have to hold two conflicting ideas in your head at the exact same time. You have to think it might be A, but it also might be B.
And that takes working memory. That takes energy.
Precisely. System 1 just jumps to a single conclusion and believes it 100% to keep things moving.
Which brings us to a really fascinating concept from the book called the focusing illusion.
Oh, this is a great one. Kahneman has a very famous quote here.
Yes, the quote is, "Nothing in life is as important as you think it is while you are thinking about it."
The focusing illusion is a perfect example of System 1 making us blind to broader reality.
How does it work?
Well, when you focus your attention on one specific thing, your brain automatically makes that thing seem incredibly important.
Just because I am looking at it?
Yes, simply because your limited attention is focused on it.
So, if I get a tiny scratch on my new car, or if I send a text message and my friend doesn't reply for 3
And
hours.
start obsessing over it, right?
Yes, my stomach gets tight. I feel like my whole life is ruined by this little scratch or this ignored text. Why does the brain blow it out of proportion like that?
Because your System 1 cannot see the big picture. It only sees what is right in front of it.
So in that moment, the scratch is literally the only data it is processing.
Right. It magnifies it and convinces your lazy System 2 that it is an absolute disaster.
But a week later, when my attention moves to something else, I completely forget about the scratch.
Exactly. The scratch on the car didn't actually matter, but the brain confused focus with importance.
Okay, so if System 1 is so prone to basic math errors, if it makes us obsess over small things, and if it jumps to wrong conclusions with total confidence,
Yeah.
should we just ignore it? Should we try to suppress our feelings and try to live entirely in System 2 as cold, calculating robots?
It is tempting to think that after reading the first few chapters. But if we did that, we would be paralyzed.
Paralyzed. Like we wouldn't be able to make any decision.
Exactly. And honestly, intuition is highly valuable.
Hmm.
Sometimes System 1 knows things that the logical System 2 simply cannot explain or process fast enough.
Wait, I need you to defend that
Wow.
because you just spent the last 20 minutes telling me System 1 is a lazy, overconfident machine that gets basic math wrong.
I know. But how can it know things that logic doesn't? Let me give you a scenario from the source material regarding expert intuition.
Okay, I am listening.
Imagine a highly experienced firefighter. They walk into a burning building with their team. Suddenly, the commander shouts, "Get out now!"
Okay, so they all run out.
Yes, they all run out, and 3 seconds later, the floor collapses.
Wow, so the commanders saved their lives.
But here's the interesting part. If you ask the commander why they gave the order, they might say, "I just had a bad feeling. My intuition told me."
So their logical system, too, did not have time to do structural engineering calculations on the burning wood.
Exactly. So how did they know? Is it a sixth sense?
I mean, it sounds like magic.
Not at all. It is biology. Their System 1 subconsciously noticed tiny details.
What kind of details?
Maybe the heat on their ears suddenly spiked. Maybe the sound of the fire changed pitch. Maybe the smoke moved in a weird pattern.
Oh, so their conscious brain didn't register these facts, but their fast System 1 did.
Yes. It compared this current room to thousands of other fires they had been in, recognized a deadly pattern, and sent a massive signal of fear to force them out.
Ah, I see. So following Kahneman's exact framework, that intuition is only valid because of a specific condition, which is real practical experience.
Exactly. The firefighter had thousands of hours of learning in a very specific environment.
Kahneman says intuition is basically just pattern recognition, like a master chess player looking at a board and instantly knowing the best move.
Right. It feels like magic, but it is just a highly trained System 1.
Intuition is wonderful when it is built on years of direct feedback in a structured environment. You do something, you immediately see if it is right or wrong, and your brain learns the pattern.
Yes.
But doesn't this lead to a huge trap? Because, I mean, I feel like I have strong intuition about things I am definitely not an expert in.
Yeah, that is the danger of extrapolation. We take the feeling of valid intuition from an area where we have experience, and we trust that same feeling in an area where we have absolutely zero experience.
Can you give me a concrete example of when extrapolation ruins our decision-making?
Sure. Think about the stock market. You might say, "I have a really good feeling about this new tech company. I am going to invest my life savings."
Right, you just trust your intuition.
But unless you are a financial analyst who has studied market patterns for decades, your intuition is completely useless there.
Because the stock market is chaotic.
Exactly. There are no regular predictable patterns for your System 1 to learn from just reading a few news articles. But your brain still generates a strong feeling of confidence.
You know, I have a slightly embarrassing personal story about this exact trap.
Oh, please share.
A few years ago, I met someone at a party. And within 5 minutes of talking to them, my intuition screamed, "This person is brilliant and reliable. We should start a business project together."
Wow, 5 minutes.
Yes, my gut feeling was so strong, I felt absolutely certain. But logically, I had zero real experience in assessing business partners based on casual party conversations.
And how did that turn out for you?
My quick, intuitive judgment was a complete disaster. They ended up being incredibly unorganized and abandoned the project after a week.
So why do you think your System 1 was so confident about them at the party?
Looking back, my System 1 just liked them because they laughed at my jokes and dressed nicely.
So it took those 2 tiny pieces of information and built a whole story about them being a great business partner.
Yes, which perfectly illustrates our next major topic. When System 1 does not have real experience or enough data, it does not say, "I don't know."
No, our brains biologically hate not knowing. Uncertainty feels like danger to the brain.
So instead of admitting it doesn't know, System 1 simply invents a coherent story using whatever limited information is nearby.
Kahneman calls these cognitive errors, or biases.
Let's deeply explore these cognitive errors. These are the specific, predictable ways our brains build false reality, and the foundation of almost all of them is an acronym Kahneman uses.
Yes, WYSIATI. What does that stand for, and how does it work?
Right. So WYSIATI stands for what you see is all there is. This is perhaps the most important concept in understanding our daily mistakes.
It really is. It means that System 1 builds a complete, highly confident story using only the data that is immediately available right in front of it.
So it actively ignores the fact that there might be missing information.
Completely ignores it. System 1 does not pause to ask, what other information do I need to make a good logical
What?
decision?
It just takes the 2 or 3 facts it currently holds, connects them together, and declares the case closed.
Exactly.
How does that play out in real life? Because it sounds like trying to solve a 100-piece puzzle when you only have 5 pieces and just convincing yourself the other 95 pieces don't exist.
That is exactly what happens. Let's do a test. If I tell you Mark is intelligent and strong, and then I ask you, would Mark be a good leader? What does your brain do?
Well, my brain immediately says yes. Intelligent and strong are great qualities for a leader.
Right. Your brain took the two available facts, created a coherent story of a great leader, and gave you a feeling of confidence.
But what if there is more to the story?
Exactly. What if the very next words I was going to say about Mark were, and he is very corrupt and cruel?
Wow. My opinion changes instantly.
But your brain didn't pause to ask me, wait, is there more information about Mark's morals?
No, it just heard intelligent and jumped straight to the finish line.
Because what you see is all there is. The brain loves consistency and speed.
And this connects deeply to another cognitive error that dominates our social lives, right? The halo effect.
Yes, the halo effect is huge.
I see the halo effect everywhere, especially in dating and politics. How did the sources define the mechanism behind it?
The halo effect is a cognitive bias where our overall impression of a person influences how we feel and think about their specific character traits.
So we put a glowing halo around them.
Exactly. And the most common trigger for this is physical appearance.
Okay, so if we see someone who is very physically attractive,
Our system 1 automatically assumes they are also highly intelligent, generous, and trustworthy.
but logically, being good-looking has absolutely zero biological connection to being honest or smart. Why does the brain link them together?
Because System 1 demands a simple, coherent world. It wants everything to match perfectly.
Oh, so if one trait is good, like attractiveness, then all the other traits must be good too.
Yes, it is cognitively easier to judge someone as all good or all bad than to hold a complex, mixed view of them.
Think about celebrity endorsements. That is a perfect example.
Oh, definitely. Like a famous actor on TV trying to sell us a luxury car or a new cryptocurrency.
Right. We like the actors' movies, so our brain says, he is a good actor, therefore this must be a good investment.
It makes no logical sense. The actor knows nothing about blockchain technology or car engines.
But the halo effect tricks us into transferring our positive feelings from their acting straight onto the product.
It's a massive marketing tool because it bypasses System 2 logic entirely.
Now, let's explore another way our brain gets manipulated by the information directly in front of it. It is called anchoring.
Anchoring always feels like an actual magic trick to me.
How does a simple number completely change our perception of reality?
Well, anchoring is the phenomenon where the first number or piece of information we see anchors our brain.
And it heavily influences every single decision we make after that.
Yes, even if the first number was completely random.
Let's use the real estate example from the sources. Let's say you, the listener, are looking to buy a house, and your strict budget is $300,000.
Okay, 300,000.
You meet a real estate agent. A clever agent will not show you a $300,000 house first.
No, they will drive you to a house that costs $800,000.
They know you cannot buy it, but they show it to you anyway. You walk through it, you see the massive yard, and you hear the price, $800,000.
And that number, 800,000, becomes your anchor. It is physically planted in your short-term memory.
Right. Then, the agent shows you a house for $400,000. Now, logically, $400,000 is way over your $300,000 budget.
You should say no immediately.
But because your brain is anchored to the $800,000 house, the $400,000 house suddenly feels like a huge bargain.
It feels cheap, just by comparison. System 1 has been tricked by the anchor.
And we see this weaponized constantly in retail.
All the time. You walk into a clothing store and see a jacket with a price tag that says original price, $200. Sale price, $100.
Your brain anchors on the 200. You think, wow, I am saving $100. What a deal.
But you never asked your System 2 the actual logical question, which is the material and stitching of this jacket actually worth $100?
The store anchored your brain with a fake high price so that the real price felt like a victory.
I fall for that constantly.
It also dictates salary negotiations. Whoever says the first number sets the anchor.
Yes. If you ask for $80,000, the whole mathematical conversation revolves around that number.
If you wait and your boss offers 50,000, you are now fighting your way up from a very low anchor. And 60,000 might feel like a win, even though you wanted 80.
Exactly. The brain clings to the first piece of data it gets. Now, there is one more major cognitive error we need to dissect, and it might be the most destructive one for society.
Confirmation bias. This one causes so many arguments. Why is our brain so stubborn when it comes to changing its mind?
Confirmation bias is our biological tendency to actively search for, interpret, and remember information in a way that confirms what we already believe.
While completely ignoring, rejecting, or forgetting facts that prove us wrong.
Yes.
I want to understand the evolutionary why here. Why does System 1 care if we are wrong about something trivial?
Because changing a core belief requires immense metabolic energy.
Energy again.
Always. If you admit you are wrong, your System 2 has to wake up, dismantle your old worldview, analyze new data, and build a new worldview.
And that is exhausting.
It is. System 1 loves cognitive ease. It wants you to feel comfortable. So it acts like a strict bouncer at a nightclub.
Only letting in facts that agree with you and kicking out facts that challenge you?
Precisely. Let's say you believe that eating only fruit is the ultimate secret to health.
Okay, the fruit diet.
Because of confirmation bias, you will go online and only click on articles titled, "Why the Fruit Diet Cures Everything."
But what if I scroll past a peer-reviewed scientific paper titled, "Doctors Warn Against the Fruit Diet"? What does my brain do?
Your brain will find a reason to dismiss it instantly. You will say, oh, those doctors are paid by the meat industry, or they just don't understand.
So I am literally blind to evidence that contradicts my belief. I don't even process it logically.
You see this constantly with sports fans, too.
Oh, sports fans are the best example. A fan believes the referee hates their favorite team. Every time the referee makes a borderline bad call against their team, the fan shouts, "See? I knew it! Absolute proof he hates us."
But when the referee makes a bad call against the other team, the fan's brain completely ignores it. They don't register it as data.
They only remember the evidence that confirms their pre-existing story.
And the scary part is that modern technology has weaponized this. Social media algorithms are literally confirmation bias machines.
They really are. They figure out what you believe, and they feed you a constant stream of information proving you are right, making your false stories feel like absolute universal truths.
Okay, so we have talked about shopping, sports fans, and math puzzles. These are interesting, but they might not seem that serious.
Right, but let's look at what happens when these brain errors occur in high-stakes environments.
Yes, the sources highlight a study showing that when System 2 gets physically tired, the real-world consequences are terrifying.
This is where the book moves from curious psychology to serious societal impact. Kahneman highlights a famous study involving judges making decisions about parole in Israel.
Let's paint the picture for the listener.
Yep.
These are highly experienced, educated judges in a courtroom.
They are reviewing cases of prisoners who are asking for parole, which means asking to be released from prison early.
This is a massive decision affecting human freedom and public safety. We expect this to be a pure System 2 process.
We expect it to be completely logical, fair, and based entirely on the law and the prisoner's record.
But when researchers analyzed thousands of these decisions over time, they found a deeply disturbing pattern.
What was the pattern?
The judge's decisions had very little to do with the severity of the prisoner's crimes or their behavior in prison. The decisions depended almost entirely on what time of day the judge heard the case.
That sounds impossible. Walk me through the timeline. What did the data show?
First thing in the morning, right after the judges had a good breakfast and were fully rested, they granted parole to about 65% of the prisoners.
Okay, so their System 2 was fully energized. They were willing to do the hard mental work of weighing risks, considering the prisoner's future, and making a nuanced choice.
Yes, 65% approval. But what happened as the morning went on?
I am guessing the rate changed.
As the morning progressed, the percentage of approval steadily dropped. By the time it was right before lunch, when the judges had been making difficult decisions for hours and were physically tired and hungry,
What happened?
the approval rate plummeted to nearly 0%. They denied almost every single prisoner.
Wait, 0%? Just because it was 11:45 a.m. instead of 9:00 a.m.?
Yes. And then the judges took a break. They ate lunch. They rested.
And then what?
When they returned to the courtroom after lunch, the approval rate instantly shot back up to roughly 65%.
That is insane.
And then, as the afternoon dragged on, the rate slowly dropped back down to near zero by the end of the day.
I am genuinely shocked by that. Why does this happen? The book explains it as a problem of ego depletion and energy, right?
Yes.
Mm.
We talked earlier about how System 2 requires real physical effort. Are the judges' brains literally running out of energy?
That was Kahneman's primary explanation in the book. The theory is that making complex decisions burns glucose in the brain.
So when the judges are working hard, reading complex legal cases, their System 2 gets exhausted.
And we know what happens when System 2 is exhausted. It gets lazy, goes to sleep, and hands the steering wheel back to the automatic System 1.
And how does System 1 decide a complex parole case? It takes the shortcut. It takes the safest, easiest route.
Granting parole is mentally difficult. It requires thinking about the future, predicting behavior, and taking a risk. Denying parole is incredibly easy.
It changes nothing. It keeps a prisoner in jail, which is the safe default option.
So the tired judges just start saying no, 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 without even realizing that their physical fatigue is making the legal decision for them.
Now, I need to pause right here.
Why? What is wrong?
Because while this story is incredibly compelling, and Kahneman featured it prominently, this is the perfect moment to introduce a major plot twist in the scientific community.
A plot twist? What do you mean? Is the data fake?
Not fake, but deeply challenged. You see, since Thinking Fast and Slow was published in 2011, the field of psychology has gone through something called the replication crisis.
I have heard that term. What exactly does it mean for this book?
Well, the scientific method relies on replication. If I do an experiment and get a result today, another scientist should be able to do the exact same experiment with different people tomorrow and get the exact same result.
That makes sense.
If they can't, my original findings might have been a statistical fluke or poorly designed. In the years after this book came out, scientists tried to replicate the ego depletion, and glucose studies the idea that your brain literally runs out of sugar and stops making good decisions.
And what happened? Did the new studies prove it?
Many of them failed to replicate it entirely. The idea that a quick snack restores your logical system too is now highly debated and mostly rejected by modern psychologists.
Oh, wow. What about the judges' study specifically?
Later analysts looked at the data and pointed out that cases might not have been randomly assigned. Maybe the lawyers negotiated to have the easiest cases heard first thing in the morning and the hardest cases right before lunch.
Oh my goodness. Wait, my mind is kind of blown right now.
Why is that?
Because I just listened to that judge story, and my brain completely accepted it as a terrifying, absolute fact. I didn't question it at all.
Exactly. Your System 1 heard a compelling, coherent story. Hungry judges get mean. And it fit perfectly with what we were just talking about.
Your confirmation bias accepted it instantly. I didn't ask for alternative data.
We just experienced WYSIATI in real time. Kahneman's book told a neat story, and we bought it completely.
But does this mean Kahneman's entire theory of System 1 and System 2 is wrong? If the judge study is flawed, are we just throwing the whole book away?
Not at all. And that is a crucial distinction. The broad macro concepts, the existence of fast intuitive thinking and slow analytical thinking, the reality of confirmation bias, the halo effect, these remain incredibly robust and widely accepted.
The fundamental architecture of our minds that Kahneman describes is solid. It is just that some of the highly specific, flashy experiments used to illustrate them turned out to be weak.
Yes, that brings up a massive debate. Even if the exact mechanism isn't glucose, the general idea that we make predictably irrational choices remains true.
But some critics read Kahneman's work and feel despair. They say his view of human thinking is incredibly pessimistic.
If we are constantly tricked by anchoring, blinded by the halo effect, and governed by a lazy system too, are humans just broken machines? Are we doomed to be irrational?
It is a valid fear. When you realize how little control you have over your initial thoughts, it can feel like you are just a passenger in your own body.
But I want to push back aggressively against that pessimism. I do not think Kahneman is saying we are doomed. He is saying we make mistakes in predictable patterns. Yeah. And that word predictable is the most hopeful word in the book.
How so? Connect that for us.
Think about a machine. If a machine breaks completely randomly, you can never fix it. You just have to throw it away.
Right.
But if a machine always pulls to the left when you drive over 50 miles per hour, you know exactly what the problem is. You can anticipate it.
Because our cognitive errors are predictable, we can learn to spot them. We can build personal systems and organizational guardrails to protect ourselves from our own brains.
That is a highly constructive way to look at it. Knowledge is only valuable when it is applied. We cannot magically delete System 1 from our brains, but we can manage it.
So let's transition into the practical application. How do we use this knowledge? Let's discuss some real practical tools for better thinking that emerge from Kahneman's work.
I am so ready for this. Let's give the listener some real tools they can use today.
Tool number one is the simplest, but biologically, it might be the hardest to actually execute the power of slowing down.
It sounds like a cliche, but when you understand the mechanics of the two systems, it is deeply profound.
Exactly. We know that system one is incredibly fast and system two is slow to wake up. So if you are about to make a significant decision, accepting a new job, buying a car, or even just replying to a very angry email, the easiest way to defeat a cognitive error is to literally force a time delay.
Do not act on the first thought that enters your head.
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself, is this my fast emotional system one talking, or have I actually engaged my analytical system two?
Just waiting 24 hours before sending an angry email gives your system two the time it needs to boot up, analyze the long-term consequences, and realize that screaming at your boss in all caps is a terrible idea.
You are forcing the transition from fast to slow. Now, tool number two is a highly specific, brilliant technique that Kahneman recommends for group decisions or major projects. It is called the pre-mortem.
Oh, I find the pre-mortem fascinating. Explain how this works because it feels like a psychological magic trick.
We all know what a post-mortem is in medicine. It is when doctors examine a body after a patient dies to find out exactly what killed them.
Right.
A pre-mortem happens before a decision is finalized or a project is launched. Here's how you do it. Imagine you and your team are about to launch a new business. Or maybe you are personally about to make a huge financial investment.
Okay, I am about to make a big investment.
Before you sign the papers, you gather everyone together and say, okay, let's play a game. Imagine we jump exactly 1 year into the future. We made this decision, and it was a complete and total disaster.
Total disaster.
Yes, we lost all our money. The business failed miserably. Now, looking backward from this imaginary future, why did it fail?
Why does framing it that way change how our brain works? Because normally if you ask a team, hey, does anyone see any problems with our plan? No one says anything.
Because of what we discussed earlier, confirmation bias and WYSIATI. When you're planning a project, System 1 only wants to see success. It builds a happy story.
If you ask, will this succeed? System 1 confidently says, of course.
But the pre-mortem tricks System 1. By declaring that the project has already failed in this imaginary scenario, you completely bypass the confirmation bias. You give your brain permission to look for flaws without feeling defensive.
That is brilliant. You change the brain's goal. Instead of the brain trying to prove the project is good, the brain starts using its natural creativity to find weaknesses.
Suddenly, people feel safe saying, well, it failed because we completely forgot to budget for marketing. Or, it failed because we assumed our competitor wouldn't launch a similar product.
You uncover the blind spots that System 1 was actively hiding from you.
It forces you to see the missing puzzle pieces. It is a fantastic tool for any major life choice.
Now let's look at tool number 3, which Kahneman calls the outside view.
This one is painful for the ego. The outside view is about overcoming our biological tendency to believe that we are special, unique, and better than average.
When we start a new endeavor, we naturally take what Kahneman calls the inside view. We look exclusively at our own skills, our own optimism, our own unique situation, and we build a highly optimistic story of success.
Let's use a common example. Let's say I decide I want to open a small bakery. I take the inside view.
What does that sound like?
I say to myself, my chocolate chip cookies are amazing. I'm a very hard worker. My friends always tell me they love my baking. Therefore, my bakery will be a huge success and I will be rich.
You are only looking at your internal personal story.
But the outside view requires you to step back and completely ignore your personal feelings. You have to look at the objective, statistical data of other people who have tried to do the exact same thing in the past.
You have to ask statistically, what is the base rate of success for new small bakeries in this city?
And the cold hard statistics might say that 80% of new bakeries go bankrupt within the first 2 years.
Right. And your System 1 will immediately rebel against that statistic. It will shout, yes, but those other people weren't me. I am different. My cookies are better.
The outside view forces your System 2 to step in and say, no, objectively, you are not magical. You are part of the statistic. You must plan your finances around the fact that you have an 80% chance of failing.
It is cold, it is harsh, and it is entirely unromantic. But it is how System 2 makes accurate predictions. You cannot ignore the base rates.
You have to combine your internal hopes with the external statistical reality. These tools forcing yourself to slow down, running a pre-mortem to imagine failure, and taking the outside view to look at cold data They don't cure our brains, but they put crucial guardrails on our thinking.
Exactly. They act as safety nets for our predictable errors. Now, as much as we have praised these ideas and the profound impact of this book, to give our listener the full, honest picture, we need to do a formal critique. We need to talk about the book's flaws.
Critical thinking means we don't just blindly accept a book as gospel just because it has a Nobel Prize winner's name on the cover. We have to examine it objectively.
Let's start with the reading experience itself. We touched on this at the beginning, but it really is a massive barrier for the average reader.
It is. Kahneman was a brilliant scientist, but he writes exactly like a scientist writing for other scientists. The book is very long, highly academic, and structurally, it can be quite frustrating.
I found that many chapters seem to repeat the exact same macro concepts over and over, just using slightly different laboratory experiments.
And the practical takeaways, the tools we just discussed, are not clearly highlighted. They're often buried deep inside dense paragraphs of statistical analysis.
The book is incredibly effective at describing our brain's problems, but it makes the reader work incredibly hard to find the actual solutions.
That is a very fair critique. But the more serious critique involves the science itself, which we preview during our discussion of the judges. Let's fully explain the replication crisis in psychology and how it impacts this specific book.
Yes, let's dive deep into that. Daniel Kahneman passed away in 2024. This book was published over a decade earlier, in 2011. Science does not stand still.
Exactly. As we discussed, the scientific method requires replication. In the 2010s, psychology faced a massive reckoning.
Researchers systematically went back and tried to redo famous experiments from the 1990s and 2000s using larger groups of people and stricter protocols.
And they found that a shocking number of these famous studies could not be replicated.
Give me another example of a study in Kahneman's book that fell apart, aside from the tired judges.
A major area of the book that suffered from this is priming. Priming is the idea that subtle cues in your environment unconsciously change your behavior. Kahneman prominently featured a famous study called the Florida effect.
Oh, I remember reading that. How did that experiment work?
In the original study, college students were asked to unscramble sentences that contained words associated with old age, like Florida, forgetful, bald, or wrinkle.
Okay, so they are thinking about old age.
The researchers claim that after reading these words, the students actually walked down the hallway significantly slower than students who read random words.
Because their system 1 was unconsciously primed by the concept of old age, so their bodies physically slowed down, it sounds like an amazing, mind-blowing fact.
It does, and Kahneman loved it. But when later scientists tried to replicate the Florida effect with larger, more rigorous testing, nothing happened.
The students just walked at normal speeds.
Yes, the original study was likely a statistical fluke or suffered from confirmation bias by the researchers themselves.
So Kahneman put flawed science in his masterpiece. How did he react when the replication crisis destroyed some of his favorite examples? Did he get defensive?
This is perhaps the most admirable thing about Daniel Kahneman. He did not get defensive. He wrote public letters admitting he was wrong.
Wow, really?
Yes, he admitted he placed too much faith in small, underpowered studies because the results fit neatly into his theories. He demonstrated ultimate system 2, thinking he looked at new, contradictory data, overcame his ego, and publicly updated his beliefs.
I respect that immensely. That is true intellectual humility. So for our listener, the ultimate takeaway is this: the core architectural framework of thinking fast and slow is entirely valid.
You do have a fast emotional system 1 and a slow, lazy system 2. You are blinded by WYSIATI and confirmation bias.
But you must be a little careful about trusting every single quirky, unbelievable behavioral study mentioned in the text.
Precisely. It is about understanding the grand framework of your mind, not memorizing the results of every small experiment.
Well, this has been an incredibly deep and eye-opening journey. Let's briefly recap the massive terrain we have covered today.
We started by meeting the two characters driving the car in our head: the fast, automatic, intuitive, and highly overconfident System 1, and the slow, logical, but extremely lazy System 2.
We saw exactly how our lazy System 2 leads us to make simple, confident mistakes, like the bat and ball math problem, and how the focusing illusion makes minor daily annoyances feel like world-ending catastrophes.
We had a real debate about the value of intuition. We learned that intuition is highly valuable if you are an expert operating in a predictable environment, like a firefighter or a chess master. But it is dangerously misleading if you are just guessing in chaotic environments, like the stock market or meeting strangers at a party.
We explored the specific cognitive errors System 1 uses to build false stories out of missing information. We covered WYSIATI, how we judge people entirely by their looks with the halo effect, how our decisions are manipulated by random first numbers with anchoring, and how we fiercely protect our egos through confirmation bias.
We saw the terrifying reality of the judge's parole decisions, illustrating how cognitive fatigue can alter human fates. Even if the specific glucose mechanism is debated, the vulnerability of a tired mind is real.
And finally, we discuss practical tools to fight back the biological necessity of slowing down, using the premortem to trick your brain into imagining failure, and forcing yourself to take the outside view to look at objective base rate data.
Before we go, I want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought to mull over. We have spent this entire deep dive pointing out the flaws, shortcuts, and errors of our brains. But remember, these shortcuts were designed by evolution for a reason.
They keep us alive, they allow us to process a chaotic world instantly, and they keep us moving forward. If we used our slow, logical system too for every single little choice, we would be paralyzed. We wouldn't even be able to get out of bed.
That is a wonderful, provocative thought. The true wisdom of this book is not about trying to destroy System 1. You cannot destroy the autopilot.
The true wisdom is simply knowing exactly when the weather is getting too dangerous, recognizing that you are in a high-stakes situation, and intentionally turning the autopilot off so you can grab the controls yourself.
Perfectly said. Now, I have a direct question for you, our listener, to carry with you for the rest of the week. Now that you know the secrets of the magician inside your head, which System 1 error do you notice in yourself the most?
Be brutally honest with yourself. Do you constantly fall for the halo effect when you meet attractive new people? Are you easily tricked by anchoring when you see a bright red sale sign in a clothing store? Or are you guilty of confirmation bias, only ever reading the news articles that prove you are already right?
Recognizing the illusion is the very first step to seeing reality.
The next time you are absolutely 100% sure you are right about something, just take a breath. Ask yourself if it is your slow logic showing you the truth, or if it's just the magician pulling a coin from behind your ear. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We will see you next time.